Win is old. I'm not saying that to be mean, it's just the first thing she tells you. She claims that she's probably close to death, but that the events in the world continue to demand her to keep pushing on. She sounds like someone who just wants to get to a stage where she can settle down and live the remainder of her life in peace, but she's seen a lot during her time as a circle mage, with abominations being one of the key things that she focuses on. Lately, she's pondered her own existence as someone who could potentially turn into an abomination if she slips up. And it bothers her because someone who normally is the epitome of a great mage could suddenly become that way with almost no warning. It's gotten her to thinking about whether or not that process could be reversed, or if someone's humanity could be preserved despite their physical form becoming that of an abomination. It's certainly food for thought when it comes to the
rage.
I guess I never really got into what
Not enough rage.
In order to create one, a demon has to possess someone with great magical ability. The resulting strength of the abomination is actually based on the strength of the demon who possessed the mage, though, which explains why we were able to slice through the basic bitch ones in the tower. All mages can become susceptible to this transformation if they find themselves in the Fade and are weak-willed enough to become possessed, but blood mages are particularly susceptible to it. The big thing about Win is that she seems to ask more questions of me rather than me of her. And this works out sometimes, as her questions tend to lead into what she thinks of things as if I had asked her instead. Other times, however, this line of questioning has some odd responses. For example, she notes that I was truly meant to be a Grey Warden, and my answers consist of stuff like,
I'm out of rage.
now I'm not, or I just want to kill my brother, or I actually prefer this life and sleep well because of it. I choose the last one, and her response is, well, chin up, friend, you survived. It can't be that bad being a warden, right? Which is very obviously a response to the other options instead of what I said. And this extends to quite a bit of her dialogue, such as her asking what being a Grey Warden means to me. And the options are all kind of samey, none of them are what she's looking for. So she ramrods her answer your way no matter what. And it really takes me out of the game more than other characters do. Most of the other characters are interesting to a point where I don't question the BioWare line of dialogue choice where the game is going to give you the same answer no matter what. And that's a good thing. But Win really drives home the point that most of the lesser choices that you make really don't affect much, because she's asking a voiceless character what they think and then reacting to it the same way.
But I've lectured enough for today. I should stop before I wear out my welcome.
I don't know, I don't like Win. Like, I get that she's ancient and she knows a lot about the ways of the... Well, no, actually, it's more that she's like opposite day Morrigan on many levels. Where Morrigan will go on about being free and independent while also being cool and callous towards others, Win is compassionate and fights to protect others, pushing the idea of responsibility above all else. But she's also the picture of a doting grandmother, one who sticks her nose in the affairs of others and tells them what she believes is best for them. This was already pretty bad with her ideas of what a warden is supposed to be, but it becomes particularly bad when you become more involved with Morrigan, as Win starts insisting that she doesn't care about you and that she'd easily use you for her own ends. She calls you responsible if you tell her to shove it. And then she preaches that someone with as much power and responsibility as I have must end relationships and choose to reject love if they look at all to be detrimental to my mission. And even if this is true, the worst part about all of this is that Win later tells you that she was wrong, and that she didn't realize just how in love you were, and how Morrigan loves you back. The amount of backpedaling just makes her seem more foolish than wise, even if she did backpedal, because realistically she is right about Morrigan using me to her own ends. She's just annoying to me, and her heart drives me up the wall because there's no emotional substance behind her logic, no personality or understanding about her incessant nagging of my choices. Sure, she tells you of the time that she was a moody teenager who hated being confined to the circle. But then she goes, yeah, so I ran away and then I came back and talked to a priest and then I understood that with great power comes great responsibility. It's just not a good way to get your point across to someone, as the average person is going to shut down when their detractor doesn't empathize at all with a choice that they disagree with. I will note that at one stage Win collapses on the path that we're walking, She thought that
Too
she
far
died,
away.
but no dice on that. When she was a little younger, she wound up actually dying when she was attempting to exorcise a demon out of her assistant. When she biffed it, a friendly spirit took hold of her body and saved her life. No idea why the spirit did what it did, but she does know that she's always been very much attuned to the faith, not knowing it, but accepting it. And since then, this spirit has extended her lifespan for an unknown time. Every time it starts to weaken,
Need more
every time it
rage.
starts to weaken, she
That
collapses like
ability
this.
isn't ready
It's a
yet.
decent twist on her character as something that she's experienced, and it's definitely welcome. But I still just don't enjoy her demeanor, I guess. So I guess if I were to summarize Wynne, I'd say that she's an intelligent being who's bad at getting other people to understand her points. She found it easier to go through her life of self-sacrifice, and is now trying to push that idea onto you, as she's always looked up to the Grey Wardens as legendary figures. She tries to shape you to blend in with those myths, but only knows how to do it by saying that you have a lot to live up to. It's a worldview that works for her, but not for everyone else. To listen to her talk on and on about these same general topics over and over in order to create a responsible little warden.
So you had better listen to me, because I swear, if I should fall before the end and you seem to be doing things properly, I will never then to give you a good finger wave.
Zevran is an interesting piece of work. He has all the joking manner of Alistair combined with the straightforwardness of Morrigan or Stan. As much as you would expect him to be some edgy boy brooding in a corner, he's much more suited to standing out to get people to drop their guards. One of the first things that he tells you is that the assassins that he uses believe that their trade skills are some ominous shrouded mystery that takes years and years of hard training. But the truth, in his words, is that all you really need to know is how to kill someone and have the desire to do so. He claims that the biggest thing that you can do is get the first strike off to make the battle much more in your favor, which is ironic considering his method of jumping you was to attack from the front and have some archers off to
Too
the
far
side.
away.
I mean, really, I can think of a dozen other ways off the top of my head where the jump on us would have been much more effective. But semantics aside, Zev has a pretty wide array of knowledge in the art of killing.
I need to get
He may
closer.
have had that knowledge with poisons for that extra edge. Zevran was bought at the age of 7, sold to the crows for 3 gold pieces, I believe. He had no idea what he was doing, but quickly learned while being pitted against other slaves in contests of skills. Eventually, he became a full-fledged Antivan warrior, and with that came the respect and fear from ordinary
Not
people,
enough
in
rage.
addition to whatever material things he could desire. He describes it as being in a gilded cage, that things were nice, but that he was forced into the life that he found himself in. So when he got the opportunity to bolt for the first time ever, he took it. He's still not sure what exactly he wants to do, but he does know that he'd likely always be an assassin, and he's happier where he is now, away from the crows. But for as much as Zevran complains about the crows, he absolutely loves his homeland of Antigua. He misses the warmth, the desert meeting the ocean, the snowy weather from the part of town where his apartment was. He's just a fun character to listen to, albeit not a particularly deep one, at least not right now. His tales from the past are funny and intriguing, but it seems that that's all there is to him as a character beyond his roguish flirting with your warden. In fact, I'd almost suspect that he would sooner kill me off after hearing how he is about the lessons that he's picked up in his adventures.
I seem to kill a mage. Mostly in politics. With her guard, she got down on her hands and knees rather aptly. I joined her in the carriage for the night and the next morning. She convinced me to speak to the crows on her behalf. What can I say? I was young and foolish at the time. Then, as I was kissing her goodbye to return to Antiva City, she slipped on the threshold.
I need to get closer.
Broke her neck. Shame. My master was very had done such a fine job. Accident.
At first glance, this is really all there is to Zeb, which would be totally fine because, again, not every character needs to be extraordinarily deep. Now, I do know that there is more to him beyond this, and a lot of this is just first impression stuff. But for now, I'm going to have to put that off and circle back to him later,
Too far
adding any
away.
additional info and impressions.
I can't do that
What's to say about Ogren just due to the history that we've already been through? But to put it bluntly, Ogren is a big pile of
Not
a
enough
lovable and kind of
rage.
one, but one nonetheless. He's pretty much always been a drunkard who's always excessively horny and ready to fight. It's actually impressive how big of a mismatch him and Bronco were, though
Not
who knows how
enough
she was before
rage.
becoming obsessed.
Yet.
Throughout our journey through Orzammar and the Deep Roads, Ogren would roar loud over Morgan, hint at her and I banging, and laugh at Alistair for being a virgin.
I hope you're not referring to Alistair.
Does he like girls?
I believe the matter is still up for debate.
I'm right here, you know.
Anyway, you and the Grey Warden,
Do you actually have a question, Dwarf, or is it your intention simply to leer and drool?
stick with the classics. Leer and drool.
I need to
He's
get
not
closer.
a particularly by any means, which actually adds a little story to the party in the same vein that Morgan or Storm does.
Once you got that, I'll tell you, the ladies love it when you're all mysteriously angry for no reason. It's me.
He does have one redeeming factor in my eyes in that he never gave up looking for Bronca, but you can also just assume that he was just desperately horny at that stage.
I'm out of range.
It's worth noting that Bronca had been cheating on him with the dwarven girl who lost her mind in the Deep Roads, but he also had been cheating on her with a waitress in Orzammar, so whatever, I guess. Apparently he fucked something up, and the waitress wound up heading to the surface for reasons unknown. Now in his latest quest for a place to sheath his sword, he wants to try and look her up at the tavern that she's working at, stating that she's probably forgiven him by now, without elaborating further.
Just be ready to pry her off when she throws herself at me. We don't want to make a scene here.
Akron, is that you?
Yeah, in the flesh.
Too far away.
Back with the
Choose from, and you just happened to come to my tavern? Akron, I'm sure I can speak for everyone. There's nobody in Theta who think about you in the face. That hamster.
Isn't ready yet. Not ready yet.
You just did that. I haven't called you a shaft rat yet.
first demon waiting.
Well, you don't need to fit it. You could have a pint first. Call me a surly Bronto. I can tell you that you smell like nut droppings.
Jesus Christ, this went from super uncomfortable to awkwardly funny in no time flat. That's certainly a relationship, I suppose. Seems like they're made for each other. Dwarves are weird, man.
I still got it.
From here, Ogren opens up more, which, isn't... Opening up for Ogren means something completely different than literally every other character here. You can ask him how he felt about Bronca dying, and he's like, she was good at fucking, but she was a little soft in the head.
I'm out of range.
What she got? Just the two of them together, kissing and licking. It whined on the floor of the rooms. Yeah, I
Not enough rage.
go back to the tent. Excuse me.
Sweet fuck, I did not need to hear Steve Bloom say, but this, it's just a
Isn't ready
You know how
yet.
I've taken flies with Liliana or Zevron or Sven are more shallow in how they think? Yeah, Ogren is truly shallow in
Not
every
enough
sense of the word. He loves the surface. Not because of the newly patched day-night cycle or weather or anything like that, but because
I
the
need to get
ale is made
closer.
from grain. And hopefully somewhere where he can commit acts of debauchery without people knowing who he is.
More
The worst
rage.
part about trying to get him to say something more
Isn't
about what
ready
he's
yet.
thinking about is the
Not
fact that
enough
he usually winds up
rage.
getting so drunk after a
Need
single
more
dialogue that he refuses to say anything other than... yes, ass chaps.
Not ready yet.
You really don't need much more out of Ogren to understand him. He's basically the epitome of every dwarven fantasy stereotype shown to the character, and hilariously, nearly every other Dragon Age dwarf looks at him with disgust because of it. And I want to clarify that I'm not looking for him to have
Too
some
far
crazy,
away.
deep introspection. Some kind of breakthrough where he goes,
Not
yes,
ready
maybe it
yet.
was I who was being most heinous this
I
entire
need to get
time.
closer.
He's the
Not
comic
enough
relief, but he seems to
rage.
be... Well, I don't
Need
think he
more
was like being
rage.
called it, but he seems to be
Not
fine with his
enough
line of life.
rage.
Let's just leave it at that.
human walks into a tavern, and there's an elf there, and she says... and she says... she says, I don't...
All in all, companions in this game are a crazy mixed bag from pure to corrupt and from selfless to selfish. For the most part, they all have pretty interesting background stories. And even the ones which don't have as much for them going in that way, interesting things to say about the world. I find it cool that you can ask most of them to leave your camp if you want to, and that they all have different class specializations to teach you for your own usage. This game would not be the same without every single one of them, and I can't help but think that BioWare hit a home run with the writing here.
Need more rage.
Alright, let's get to the forest. I'll be splitting up my party a bit here just because of some of the interactions that I know of which take place with certain members. I should theoretically be just fine with my party leveled up to when we first stumble upon the Dalish camp on the forest's outskirts where men are staying. The Dalish are those previously mentioned nomadic elves who have stuck to their ways despite a vast majority of elves being enslaved at one stage.
Not
The guard
enough
tells us
rage.
to fuck off. I tell them I want to speak to their leader. Upon hearing that I'm a warden, the Dalish leader dismisses the guard with some kind of elvish language farewell. I'm gonna come out and say this now, I've never liked fantasy elves. They all kind of generally do the same thing. They mix their language into common speech, they tend to live in forests, they're very attuned to nature, they tend to be stuck up in regards to other cultures. I don't know, I find it grating, I guess, because nearly every elven group is interchangeable with other franchises. That's why the ones that lost their culture and are looked down upon are much more interesting to me. It's a fresh take, and I would rather have interacted with a group of those elves than the old forest elves who have nature problems. Though I'd be remiss if I sat here and pretended that Orzamar's dwarves are much different than every other fantasy media. I guess I just don't like elves.
Yo!
It's not a flaw in the game, it's just a personal preference. At any rate, the issue that the Dalish elves are facing is werewolves. Lots of werewolves. Apparently the elves here had planned on moving north when the blight showed itself, only to be cut off by the lycanthropes. These werewolves unfortunately carry the age-old property of transforming those wounded by one into another werewolf eventually, so you can see the problem here already. In order to stop the curse from spreading, we gotta hunt down the first original werewolf.
I sure wish Vice Admiral Greslick did a better job of keeping the seas safe for our trading vessels. With all the gold the trade princes have poured into the trade fleets, it ticks me off to see so many pirates running willy-nilly, raiding my ships and stealing my goods. I heard that the South Sea freebooters have set up a camp just south of here. They've been a real thorn in my side, and if Greslick won't take care of them, well, maybe you can help me get rid of them.
Does she have regrets, etc.? Well, she does have one regret, which involves an elf which she tutored. The elf was very mistrustful of humans, as he had grown up in an orphanage where he was treated like trash by them. Well, when his magical powers awoke, he was sent off to the Circle where a young Minne was to guide him. She knew of his background, but she was arrogant and thought that the elf needed to simply get over his distrust like a proper maid.
Hey, how Director Riddlevox put me in charge of the Union's Shredder Development Program. Few months on the job and I'm already in hot water. I could use your help, adventurer. The venture company set up a small research facility far to the north of here, southwest of the Sludge Fen. I don't know very much about what they're doing, but did manage to discover that they're experimenting with something called a samoflange.
But this just isn't true in my eyes.
Yo! Well, whatever it is, glad I could help. So I need someone to go get it. I obtained a copy of their control system operating manual. You should be able to figure out how to disengage the samoflange from it. The raptors of the Barrens are smarter than raptors in other lands. And I think all that smarts is hiding in their horns. If so, then I could grind their horns into powder and use it to make smart drinks. I could sell them for a fortune. And you can help me. Find me intact raptor horns from Sunscale Scytheclaws. They roam in the southern Barrens and in the northern Barrens near the border of Ashenvale Forest.
I mean, shit.
Well, I'll be. This was one of Chen Stormstout's kegs. He traveled with Rexar a long time ago.
money,
I haven't seen or heard about him in a Kodo's age. I appreciate you bringing this to me, adventurer.
That fucker was a
Would you
Duke
like a taste
controller.
of
It would've
Chen's
killed him.
namesake? Oh, the Storm Stout is a mighty brew. Chen taught the recipe to my mentor, and my mentor passed it on to me. I'll need you to get me a few things, but I can tell you this. The kick is worth it.
Bring me 5 Savannah Lion tusks from any Savannah Lion, 5 Plain Strider kidneys from any Plain Strider, and 1 Thunder Lizard horn from any species of Thunder Lizard. That should do the trick. You can find these ingredients throughout the barrens.
Looking after a pointy white deer who may have been infected with the werewolf curse, but you aren't able to tell without a higher survival skill. And there's this dude who fills us in on the background lore